Alright, Chris Kugler here. Welcome back to another developer session. Right now we'll be continuing our multi-target QTE. After thinking about it a little bit, even though the visual part of the QTE itself is extremely lightweight, for the sake of consistency, I'm going to go ahead and put it behind an object pool. So we last time we had updated our enemy combatant to have the object in its tree under its canvas. So we're going to go ahead and drop that. But we do need a face button prompt is right there. We're going to go ahead and replace that QTE. We're going to delete it from here. And we're going to apply back to our enemy prefab. We'll delete this back out of our scene. So now we have our face button prompt QTE. The image is disabled by default. The object itself is disabled by default. All of our QTEs are disabled by default on the prefab anyways. So we're going to go ahead and look at our show QTE. We have a show multi-target QTE. Actually, before we continue that, let's just go ahead and set up our object pool. So we've got our pools for enemies, pools for attack QTE. We'll just duplicate that. And we'll say this is our face button prompt pool. Give him the face button prompt. Starting capacity will be 3, max capacity 5. Right now I don't support battles with more than 2 enemies. I'm thinking the maximum I'll ever support will be 5. But, you know, we'll see. As we get further into the actual game design itself and the difficulty balancing, we'll see at what point does it make sense to have a large number of weaker enemies versus a small number of normal enemies, or one significantly strong enemy like a boss. You know, or even enemies with multiple targets attached to them, like something that's much larger, but you can target the arms and legs or the head, or, you know, target things that are in the battle arena. You know, just the possibilities are quite wide and varied. But we'll go ahead and add another guy here. That, our key will be face button prompt. So we have that in our pool, in our dictionary, and I can reference this here. And actually I should probably, did I start... I know I have a string class, a static class for something like that. I think that's in data. Object pool keys. Yeah, okay. So I started this, I just never actually finished this. And I should separate this second class into a different file. So let me go ahead and just take care of this right now. 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have our guard QTE, we have forest bunny gray. We have our attack QTE. So guard QTE, forest bunny, attack, monster bee, test enemy, which is bullshit. That can go away. face button prompt. And I do have one here that's test unit. Do I actually use that anywhere though? I guess not. What was I using that for? I don't remember what I was using test unit for. I mean, maybe the spawn location was originally using it. Let's see, spawn unit, enemy unit prefab, which according to this is the grazing enemy unit. Yeah, I think this is just old. Enemy movement controller, enemy behavior, chase behavior. Yeah, I think this is just old. So I'll leave a note for myself here to go back and take a look at test enemy unit in object pool. And we'll see if I still need that or not. However, for the moment, we have our face button prompt. So what else do we need to do here? Face button prompt controller. So we got our face button prompt controller we're going to need to deal with. We're going to need to deal with our QTE command factory. So show multi-target QTE with our key. Transform parent. This is going to be a transform array of targets. An object for input. Input object. Oh, this is the actual parameters being passed in. Well, what kind of input parameters do we need? And additionally, what kind of output parameters are we going to have? I guess for the input, we could give which enemies are available to be targeted. And therefore, the parent doesn't need to be an array, it'll just be null, and we can use that as each of the targets. By that same reasoning, we're still in the running to just use this method. Like if we go about it like that. Engage button, we've already decided we need to make a little bit more of a flexible system for that, because we need to be able to support multiple inputs. I mean, similarly, this falls apart if the QTE is one in which you mash the button to determine like a power level or something like that. So like that kind of falls down in the face of other single target QTEs as well. Well, let's see here then. So function for can engage, which is just going to be a conditional statement. Our next is a callback for completion and a callback for interruption. Local position and local rotation offsets. Yeah, if we use the input, there's no reason we even need this method. We can just provide the targets, the enemies, as part of the input here. Quite frankly, the enemy object itself, I believe, has access to the display controller. Yeah, UI manager, not display controller. So we can get the canvas as the target from that. Yeah, you know what? Let's nix this. Let's go ahead and say that our object Where's my attack all? Simon says attack all. And I believe the way I just put the rest of these input and outputs next to the class itself, right? Yeah. No interface, no abstract class or anything. So, and what's the input and result are the nomenclatures I'm using. So, there we go. Simon says attack all input and Simon says attack all result. This is going to have my enemies, which I no longer need here. And my result. So knowing the order of enemies and knowing that we are not allowing... Well, I want to add options to this, right? So I want to say whether or not the QTE fails immediately if you miss a button input, if it's a partial success in that the enemies up to the failure are hit, or if it just rolls through without the interruption, and if you miss the button, it just moves on to the next enemy and you can hit as well. So going by that, I don't want... just knowing the number of enemy targets that were hit, given that the caller knows the first targeted enemy and the number of enemies that fall after that, I actually want an enemy array of these successful hits. Additionally, to do criteria for failure / interrupt criteria and allowed partial success. So now our input, we provide it in this activate method, right? Activate gets this object. So we know our Simon says attack all input is good. If we try to activate it with the wrong input, I want this to go ahead and just throw an exception. So I'll leave it at that. We're going to go ahead and store that. And on disable, we're going to go ahead and just say this dot input criteria is equal to null. So we'll just empty that out. So on activate is interrupted is false. Input criteria is equal to what we're sending in, which will be the enemies. I believe the rest of our activates set the enabled to true at the end. Yes, because that triggers are unenabled, and spurs our QTE factory to wait for the engagement of the QTE. So what else do we do here? Activate. Transform set parent. Game object set active to true. Now, So honestly, we could have done a lot of this in the activate as well. We didn't need to use this on disable mechanism. And did we do that for the other one? No, we don't. So we have this prepare slider, which presumably gets called from the activate. Yeah, okay. But it does a lot of the same stuff. Transform set parent, game object set active. My normal shenanigans when we whatchamacallit, when we reset the parent, to reset the local transform stuff. The rest of that's specific. I think the order that matters, but whatever. I might need to move this into an abstract class, which, speaking of, I'll leave a note to do that in a little bit as well. So let's see here. So, we know at this point that we have the enemies we're targeting. We need to set focus to the first enemy, create prompts, and attach to the enemy. Now for our case here, the set parent's going to be null because we're not going to have a parent object for our QTE itself. We're just going to have the, it'll just be its own game object, which I believe is what works if you have a, yeah, it'll just be at the root level of the scene because we're going to instantiate from the pool our face button prompts and attach those to each of the enemies from within here. So this guy's going to be null. I'll leave a note for myself in case I forget that while I'm talking. So, create the prompts and attach to the enemy. What else do we need to do? We need a mechanism for our input, but we'll deal with that in the second step here. So first off, set the focus to the first enemy. Our focus controller is, I believe, a part of our battle system. Stationary battle, focused enemy selection. And it is only accessible through there. It hooks on to the battle system started and ended. So we also need a way to prevent the player from updating the focus while we're doing the QTE. So let's, how do we want to access this? I mean, technically it's attached to the battle system, but it's only attached to the battle system. Like, it was the best place to put it. It doesn't really have a specific reason for that. I mean, I suppose I can make it a member of the IOC container. could attach it to the battle system. I mean, honestly, actually, this should it should probably be attached to the player. Like, all things being as they are, it is dealing primarily with the player's movement controller. So, yeah, I don't know. Is there a reason for this not to be on the player rather than the battle system? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and steal it. Battle system, copy component, remove component, paste component. It toggles its own enabled and disabled on the battle start and battle end events. So that's fine. And on our player, so we have access to the focus controller through the player instance. Yeah, I think this will work as a public method, since it does re-update the focused index and the target and all that stuff. The other thing is we need to have a way to disable the ability for the player to manually change the focus. So if target forward is not equal to vector 3.0. Oh, that's, okay, gotcha. Yeah. That should work. So, allow player input is false. Change the focused enemy to input.input enemies of 0. Use transition true. Create the prompts and attach them to the enemy. So for each in this.input enemies, we are going to get our first off, it's I object pool dictionary, I believe. So we get our prompt from the pool. We are going to we're going by face button position, yes. Let's see, 0 is none, so we want a randomization from 1 to 5, I believe, because of the way it's exclusively set up. Engine random.range. Int min is going to be 1. Max is going to be 5. And let's just range. And this should have the appropriate documentation. There we go. Returns between the minimum inclusive and maximum exclusive. So the minimum inclusive will be 1. Our maximum exclusive will be 5 because it excludes the actual value itself. So the value is going to be between 1 to 4. And we're going to prompt get component face button prompt controller. Face button prompt controller, public void set image, and public void clear image. Set the image to, can I just give it val? No. So we want to be a face button position. Cast from the int will work. So we've got our image. We need to attach it. So we're going to attach this to the enemy. Prompt transform set parent enemy.UIManager transform. Actually, I keep doing this over and over and over and over and over. Let's just go ahead and, while I'm thinking about it, public static void set parent and we set local values. This transform target transform parent. So target.set parent. There we go. Sorry, I keep going silent there. I'm muting it while I'm having a couple coughing fits. A little something stuck in my throat. So allegedly we have our buttons are updated. It's targeted. Its parent is set. And we'll see what that actually does to it when it's parented in the canvas, whether it's in the center or if I need to do something with the setting the anchor position. But who knows? We'll see. Yeah, so activate. We got that. We locked our focus down. We've set up our thingy thing here with our random range of buttons. Though we do need to keep what our random range of buttons are, right? I thought I had somewhere a mechanism for transposing whatchamacallit, the button position to the actual input button string. Where's that skill thing? I mean, we use the QTE factory here, but I thought I had like a yeah, player skill controller. Does this have it? Controller input tracker. Controller input tracker has it. Or it has something. Public string. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So that'll work. So let's go ahead and use this. So we know our button positions per prompt. So we're going to have our input order. And for each one of these guys here, so this dot input order it's going to be the same length as our list of enemies. So we're going to change this up a little bit. Yeah, this is the one I want. Okay, so we're storing our order of button inputs to look at. So, let's look at our factory again. So, given our key and our parent, we go ahead and set up the QTE, we activate it. We're fine up to this point. That's okay too, while the interface is enabled. And this engage and can engage are successful, which is determined by the outer area. Input.get button down. Now we wanted to find the input with the QTE, so the question is, do we want to change this to a yield return QTE object dot wait for input or something like that? I mean, ultimately no, because we want to be able to break out of here if we get the interrupt. If the interrupt tells us that this is disabled now, we need to break out. So we'll leave this in the while loop. Input dot no. So we're passing in this engage button. I'm thinking we need to start passing in that as part of the input object. Yeah, we'll switch that up to a property. Engagement requirements met. We'll change our factory. If QTE object QTE interface engagement requirements met, then engage. And this is going to give me a bunch of build errors because now we need to implement this. So engagement requirements met. For our guard QTE input, we're going to say prop string engage button. So we will, similar to our other one, we're going to capture our input value, and we're going to input value dot engage button. So true once the button is down, and I think we'll be doing the exact same thing with our. Well, Simon says attack all is going to be a little different. We'll come back to him in a minute. Target slider is going to be the same idea. Yeah, so we'll be good there. Now, in our QTE command factory, we're looking at the engagement requirements met, which for all those other ones, that's going to be just that press of that one button, right? For our new one, we're going to set this privately. Return this dot engagement requirements met. Now, this guy's going to have its own update. And his update is going to wait for each of our button inputs. Once the button input is met, it's going to move to the next object. Well, we'll just kind of do it while we're talking about it, or stub it out at least. So check current enemy input. If input is found, focus on next enemy and wait for that input. If all inputs are met, set engage requirement to true. Prompt is missed. Interrupt. and we'll figure out what to go from there. Yeah. So we're coming in at about 45 minutes now, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this here, and we'll pick this up in the next part with our input detection. Thank you, and have a nice one.